Hello YouTube, this is an Ace Special, and today I'll be talking about the problems that I believe exist within games journalism. Some of you may recall that in my last video I said I'd be working on 3 videos covering different problems within the games industry, and I decided it would be most appropriate to start here. In addition to mentioning problems though, I'll also be covering how these problems impact the games industry, as well as offer solutions to these problems. So to start off, let's get the most obvious issue out of the way: corruption in games journalism. This is probably the most controversial issue, but it is also one of the most damaging to the industry, as well as one of the most obvious. The fact of the matter is that dishonest games journalism has played a massive role in the growing mistrust between normal gamers and professional critics. I don't really need to focus too much on this, even though it is a recurring issue, because that would be preaching to the choir, so I'll just say this: don't do it. Moving on though, the next major issue I have is the general lack of coverage that certain genres of games get. Specifically, I'm talking about the general lack of coverage that war games, and to a lesser extent simulation games, receive from game journalists. The funny thing is that these games still do manage to get coverage from journalists. It's just that the journalists in particular work for publications like Armchair General, for example. Yeah, you heard me right. The group that best covers these games are actually military historians, rather than gamers. So moving on from this bizarre bit of the story, I believe the impact that this problem has on the industry is that gamers are only seeing part of the games industry, specifically the part that favors action over attention to detail. I suspect that it has a very real impact on games design because most gamers and game developers are not seeing the other side of the spectrum. While it is true that the war game community is most likely smaller than other genres of games, I believe that game journalists should make efforts to review some of the bigger releases, such as Gary Grigsby's War in the East series, for example. This leads me to my third problem in game journalism, and that would be punishing games just because they are meant for a niche audience. It seems that when a game critic reviews a game, they have a habit of reviewing it based on what your stereotypical gamer expects, or rather what the chart says a stereotypical gamer wants in the game. The natural consequence is that they fail to review the game based on what the intended audience wants. There are many examples I could mention that fit this. The Hidden and Dangerous series is beloved by many old tactical shooter fans, for example, and I could also mention the fact that the Painkiller series has gotten mediocre reviews despite being a great little run-and-gun game, just like the old classics Doom and Wolfenstein 3D. The example I'm going to finish this with, though, would be the Age of Pirates series. Those of you who've seen my Is It Worth It video of the game would know what my opinions are of it. The problem here is that this method of reviewing games typically means that as a rule more mainstream titles are going to get better reviews for simply being more of the same, and the end result is that we get games that all start to play the same. So maybe we should focus instead on reviewing games based on the expectations of the intended audience. Well, that is really all I have to say about the problems caused by games journalism. I realize today's video is a bit short, but the good news is I'll be back here soon with another video. See you guys again soon. Peace out.